Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar, Study in USA. Let's meet our presenters who will switch on their cameras right now. Kaya Coban is here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Kaya. And Rob Medrano from Pace University.
Greetings, all.
And my name is Anastasia, and I am a member of SRT team. So here is our webinar's plan for today. Kaya Coban, who is Education USA Advisor, will start with an overview of why to study in USA. And then Rob will continue and will tell us about the advantages of studying at Pace University. So the webinar will take approximately 1 hour. And at the end, we will invite you to the Q&A session. On the right side of your screen, you can see the chat box where you can interact with us, ask your questions, but pay attention because many questions like financing your studies, like admission requirements, visas, all of this will be answered during the presentation. So if there is some question you still have, at the end you can ask us, and Rob and Kaya will be very happy to reply live to you. Also, we will share the brochure of Pace University in the handout session, which is on the right side of your screen, just above the chat. So without more details from me, I would like to play a video of Education USA, and then I leave the word to Kaya. Enjoy the webinar.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Kaya, and I am with Education USA. I am the advisor in Moldova. I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, though, so I'm glad you guys are all interested in studying in the United States. So first off, what is Education USA? So we are a large network around the world, over 500 advising centers, as you saw in the video, in more than 170 countries. So what do? We provide accurate, comprehensive, and unbiased information about studying in the US. It's also free of charge. So if you are curious, you can go to Education USA online and try to find the closest advising center to you. If there's not one in your area, that's okay. Any of the advisors around the world will help you. I'm more than happy to help you too. And so we are considered the official source on information on higher education. Okay, so why study in the United States? You guys have so many options. So first, we are a unique environment. So over 1 million students studied, 1 million international students studied in the United States from 2019 to 2020, including optional practical training, so OPT. I will say, of course, for the 2020-2021 academic year, not everyone was able to go back to the United States and study. So many of our students were studying online, doing different methods to still be active in school, but unfortunately either online or maybe still in the United States, but still online, but like in their dorms or with, wherever they were living before. So again, you guys all know it's been a unique and challenging year. Why else would you want to study in the United States? So we have quality, state-of-the-art facilities, world-renowned faculty, diversity. We have many different approaches to learning. And so that could be diversity in how your teachers are going to teach. Are they going to use both a hybrid method of lecture and discussions, bringing in guest lecturers. Maybe you have a lab where you're actually going to dissect something in your biology classes. Maybe you go outside for the day and go learn. Choices. It can be overwhelming, but we have over 4,700 accredited institutions. And then on top of those institutions, you can mix your academic programs, your degree studies. So you can double major, you can dual degree, you can have a minor, you can concentrate in something. It's kind of the world is yours when it comes to choice. Value, so a wide range of value. So from very expensive to not so expensive, there's everything in between. And then again, flexibility. So the ability to design your studies. Okay, just very briefly on the education system in the United States. So after high school, you can go and pursue your associate's degree, which I'll talk a little bit more about, or your bachelor's degree. So associate's degree are at 2-year schools, and your bachelor's degree is achieved at a 4-year university. And then after you have your undergraduate degree or your bachelor's, you can then get a master's and then, or go to, say, a professional school, so like medicine or dentistry, law. So for those of you who do want to study medical school, I know in some parts of the world you can graduate from high school and then go directly to medical school. You cannot do that in the United States. So I applaud you if you want to obtain a professional degree, but you'll have to get an undergraduate degree first, possibly take additional standardized tests, and then go to law school or medical school, veterinary school, things like that. So just be aware that is a thing in the United States. So again, why study higher education in the United States? So, and these are just different little unique things that make us a little bit different from the rest of the world. So there's no government, no central government body. So meaning all of the schools are kind of going to have their own guidelines. We have a Department of Education, and they issue these really broad rules for us. We have diversity of institutions and programs. So again, that means that you find the school that fits your needs, not the other way around. You don't need to make yourself fit to a school. Just find the school that feels natural to you. And then no national admissions exams. So again, every institution will decide what they require of their students, whether it's a certain grade or a certain score in a test. Maybe they don't require tests, maybe they do. So it's all very different. The types of U.S. higher education institutions. So we have 3 kind of general kinds. So public colleges, private colleges, and community colleges. Now, when I say colleges, I'm also meaning that to mean university. In the United States, someone may ask me, where did you go to college? And I will say, I went to the University of New Orleans. We use university and college pretty much the same way. There's very minimal differences between a college and a university. So it's not, I know in some parts of the world, at least, in Moldova, a college is more of like a trade school. Maybe you would go to learn typing or how to become a plumber or an electrician. In community colleges, think of it as more of a 2-year university, and the same with private colleges and public colleges. Those are 4-year institutions. So you can have Boston College and Boston University, and they're almost the same. Again, those are just 2 examples. So again, your private and public colleges. So they offer undergraduate and graduate programs. Private colleges are usually smaller in size. Private colleges can have a religious affiliation. You don't have to be, say, Catholic to attend a Catholic private college. It's just that's what the mission's founded on. And then single gender schools. So like an all women's college or an all men's college, you do have to be of that single gender to go to those schools. And then liberal arts institutions are usually private and then offer undergraduate programs only. And I will say for each of those bullet points, there's always going to be an exception. So because there are over 4,000 schools, there will be an exception to every single rule that you kind of come across. So again, you have to do a lot of research. Okay, again, so community colleges, please think of it as a 2-year university. You have, again, tons of options. They're all over the United States. So urban, suburban, and rural areas. They're 2-year degrees. So that's an associate's degree. You can get an associate's degree and then transfer to a 4-year institution and finish and get your bachelor's degree. When you graduate with a bachelor's degree, it's going to say that you graduated from that 4-year university. It's not going to say that you attended a community college first, and so it's only kind of half of a degree. It's a real degree. You just started at a community college, so like a 2-year university, and you transferred. I went to a community college. I transferred from a 4-year institution to community college and then back to a 4-year institution. I changed my major 3 times. So again, lots of flexibility. And there are reasons why you might attend a community college, and that's going to be personal to you. So in the United States, I would say there's 5 general steps to study. These are good steps if you decide to go elsewhere in the world, just whatever you're going to do for your higher education. These are kind of good 5 steps to US studies. So your first one is to research your options. You have to do the research. With so many options available, you can't go to the school where your best friend's going because it might not be a good fit for you. So you need to figure out where you want to go based on your major, your minor. What are the admissions requirement? If you are a kind of a 3.5 student, you're like an above average student, but you're not, a 4.0 student, maybe you don't want to go to a certain school or apply there because you're not a good fit there academically. And that's okay. I'm not Harvard material. I had no aspirations of applying to Harvard, and I knew I wouldn't get in based on my grades. So it's okay if you're not that type of student. There's a school out there for you. So what are the requirements? What are the costs of attendance? You need to be able to afford the school. And, we don't all have $1 bazillion to go wherever we want. So that's something very important to think about. Again, financial aid, what could you possibly get? The type of institution, location, and special requirements. So clubs, things like that. Those are important. If you hate the snow, then don't look at schools where there's a lot of snow. If you hate the hot weather, again, don't look where it's super hot. That's very important because you need to be comfortable where you go. Financing your study. So again, very important. This is something that you should discuss with your family. What can you realistically afford? Do you think the schools you're applying to will give you any sort of scholarship? So again, factor in your total cost of admission, and that includes your tuition, your fees, room and board. So are you going to live in a dorm? What is it going to cost for you to eat? Health insurance, figure out what your family can contribute, and then what you'll get from the school for financial aid. And there's lots of documents that go with that. So different types of financial aid resources. There's merit-based. So that's based on how you are as a student. So will you get a scholarship because you're an outstanding student? Need-based is based on what you need to go to that school. So the schools are going to look at that. So, and then if you're an athlete, maybe you can get an athletic scholarship if you excel at a sport. And then if there's on-campus employment. On-campus employment really is just going to pay for the extras in your life. So, what you do on the weekends. It's not going to really pay for school. Completing your application. So again, there's lots of different things that you'll have to turn in. Maybe you have to take the SAT, maybe you don't. You'll all need some sort of language proficiency exam, and then everything in that application package. So the form, your transcripts, letters of recommendations, essays, so many essays. So really take the time to plan ahead what you're going to need and how long it's going to take you to prepare these things. It's not something you can do in a week or a day. It's going to take months to prepare. Applying for your student visa, I'm not going to focus on this because first you have to get into the schools. If you don't get into the schools, there's no point in worrying about a student visa, but most of you will be going on an F visa. That's the most common type. So again, these are things that you'll worry about once you get into your school and your consular, the consulate section at your U.S. Embassy can help you, or the U.S. Embassy itself. Again, you'll prepare for your departure. You'll worry about that once you get in. And then last but not least, I think I'm getting a little close on time, but I wish I had concrete information for how schools are reacting for this spring. It's still a little up in the air, and you're going to hear from Rob shortly. And so maybe he can give you a little more concrete information, but a lot of students will be able to still go in the fall. It's still very hit or miss on who's going to be able to go in person, who's not. Is it hybrid? There's just not a lot of concrete information because the schools are still making decisions. So right now, these are from July in a survey. Some of these things have changed. Some of them haven't. Most of them haven't. So again, I would just maybe pay attention a little bit this summer so you can decide or at least learn more of what it's going to be like this fall. And again, nothing is concrete, but I have a very strong feeling most schools will still have made the SAT or the ACT test optional. And again, providing information for COVID-19 specific things on your essays. So again, if you haven't been able to volunteer as much or do the things you enjoy outside of your academics because of COVID, that's okay. Admissions advisors are still very aware that the world is under this pandemic type of world. So don't worry too much about that. And that's it for me. So again, my work email is there. So please feel free to email me should you need anything. And Rob, I am going to hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Kaya. I really appreciate it. What a nice handoff. I think you were able to really give context about what's going on. I know that there's a video to be played first about PACE, and then I will do some introductions about the university itself, and then leave time open for question and answers because I realize that there's a lot of information out there that we can disseminate.
PACE is excitement.
Leadership.
My favorite thing about PACE is community.
That it fosters a professional environment.
The Fort Simons Honors College.
The support it provides to succeed.
PACE means discovery.
The strive for student success.
My favorite thing about PACE is the ability to be who you are. My favorite thing about PACE is its non-traditional campus. The amount of creative outlets it provides.
My favorite thing about PACE is that we're in the greatest city in the world.
PACE is opportunity.
Home.
Constant support. Inclusivity.
A place to find purpose.
PACE means multicultural.
PACE is expression.
My favorite thing about PACE is the opportunity to make a difference.
PACE means love is love is love.
PACE is rewarding.
PACE means finding yourself.
PACE means acceptance.
Welcome to PACE!
We just want to have fun.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I see that there's a really nice mix of people on this chat. I see from Mexico, Argentina, so hola to all my Latinos out there. Ticanis, I saw someone from Greece. Merhaba from Turkey. I saw someone from Haiti, como talibou. So I'm from the other side of the island, Dominican Republic. So it's a nice little mix. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do all the introductions and hellos to everyone out there. I'll try. But first and foremost, my name is Rob Medrano. I'm the Director of International Admission and Recruitment at Pace University in New York. And it's my pleasure to be able to speak a little bit more about the university and then leave some time for question and answers later on to be able to give you a better insight about what's going on. So first and foremost, the most important thing is location, location, location. And I'm really honored to really say that for us, we are in New York City, downtown Manhattan. We are a two-campus university. So we have one that's in Manhattan and the other one that's in Westchester, New York, which is about 40 minutes away. But most of our students really know about PACE from our location. So the New York City location is about 5 minutes away walking between Wall Street. We're also minutes away from Silicon Alley, Grand Central Station, the United Nations, Times Square, and everything. So when you think about your return on investment, when you think about the time that you're putting into the university besides academics, it's really what you're going to get out of it afterwards between your internships and your potential job. So the location that we have really provides a lot of opportunity for our students. For every student, we always say that if they have the drive, if they have the passion, we have the path for them. And with that is that we set up special mentoring and advisement for every student when they come on board. The other thing that I always like to tell students is that as a university, we are a small private university. We have about 13,000 students, but 2,000 are international. So when you think about it, that's about 15% of our student population are international students. So we've been enrolling international students since 1961, about 50 years. So we really understand the challenges that students face coming to the United States for the first time, coming to New York for the first time, a daunting city in itself. So we really make sure that we take care of our international students. And again, Over the last couple of years, especially this past year, we still did not stop in terms of how we serviced our students. That number that you see right there, over 300 employers, that was between the onset last year of the pandemic and everything. So we did not stop helping our students for internships and job placements. If we couldn't do it on campus, we still brought the medium to them online. Again, the PACE path is something that's specialized for our students. Every student, when they come on board and they register for the courses, will have a dedicated mentor and an advisor. And that individual is not going to be just for the first semester and then you're on your way. It's going to be for the next 4 years of your education if you're in for undergraduate. Postgraduate students will have more mentoring between their faculty members. But on the undergraduate side, you will have someone that's going to ensure that you're taking the courses that you need to take, strong academics, making sure that you have time off in between to join clubs and your part-time jobs. Everything is basically leading up to career building internships. And for PACE, it's very important that students have an internship or internships. It can be attained usually after 1 year of being on campus academically. And I'll cover that a little bit more in detail, but that's what we really kind of try to do, is really make sure that students are being serviced. Academic-wise, we are a full-stream university offering programs within School of Business. We were founded as an accounting school over 100 years ago because, again, of the proximity to Wall Street. But since then, we have moved on with arts and science or programs within criminal justice, chemical engineering, biology, biochemistry, psychology, forensic science, any of the majors, film studies, performing arts, all that is within arts and science, computer science, health sciences, education, and law. So with career services, one of the things that I was talking about in the beginning is that we make sure that students, while they are in school, they're being prepared. And one of the ways we do that is through the internship. And for our school, we want to ensure that an internship is not just something that you put on a piece of paper, on your resume, on your CV, and say that you worked at one of the big 4 accounting firms like Deloitte or working at Adidas or something like that, but you really did not do anything. For us, the internship has to be of value. It has to give you real world experience. So that way you can put that on your resume that you did work in an environment that's really giving you the skills. So when you are going for your next job, on average, and again, this is just an average based on 2019, it's really in terms of the average salary, it's about $69,000 coming out. Now remember, that's an average. So some students are coming out maybe making significantly more, over 6 figures, and someone making a bit less because of maybe the path that they've chosen. But regardless, you can see that on the employment rate, you look 86% at bachelor's and 92% for our master's students. So we're significantly always competitive in regards to placing our students over 85%. And with internships, again, it's not just putting something on a piece of paper. It's really ensuring that you're getting the skills. So for our business students, when we say that you are going to have an internship as an analyst intern, you are doing financial analysis. If you're in computer science and you're working as a cloud engineering intern, you're working in that. Many students sometimes think that an internship is just making copies or running errands, just so you can have something to say that you worked at such a place. That's not giving you any skills. Internships are meant to give you the skills. They're meant to allow you to network, right? Because the people that are working there might be able to feed you into another company. It might even lead to your first time employment because you're working so well there. Rather than hiring outside, they already have the individual there. And also it gives you insight in terms of if that's something that you want to do. Perhaps you thought you wanted to work in finance as an analyst. You have an internship and realize that's not the path that you want. Maybe foreign exchange is your way. So it's giving you kind of many ways to be able to realize what your journey is going to be in life. We have a unique program that's called the Inspire program that's designed specifically just for international students. And it's one of the few schools that actually has something specifically for international students with an application called InStride app that has something called Handshake, that it can give you a database of all employers nationally and internationally. We also have a career fair that's just for international students, in-person workshops, and allowing for networking events and so forth. And just recently we had alumni from the Inspire program come back and present to current students. So a great way for students to be able to network. last year, over the past year, over 200 employers recruited at PACE, firms, job internship fairs, and then they have specific fairs, whether if it's in technology or multimedia, whether if it's in STEM, like a science fair, whether you're looking for hospitality, nursing, veterans, and so forth. So we really try to cater to every type of major, or at least a discipline, so students have the most competitive advantage to be able to be placed. These are just samples in terms of who's we placed. Aliyah was actually working at Deloitte, and you can just see, I'm not going to really read the whole quote. I'll give it a kind of a second so you guys can really hear from her how she felt about the Career Services Department. CPT, which is basically the opportunity to intern, right? It's curricular practical training. Students need to have one full academic year, so 2 semesters, to be able to qualify for CPT. And the best thing about it is that you're not limited to just one. Many of our students are considered to be go-getters, and so they're driven, they're hungry, and they don't want to just rely on just one internship. So they have the opportunity to do 2, 3, or 4. That gives you so much more in terms of opportunities to be noticed, networking, skill gaining, etc. And so the more chances that you have to have an internship, I definitely recommend it. Obviously, as long as it's not getting in the way of your studies, or if you're looking for a part-time job as well, you have to be able to manage your time. But again, it's very easy for students at PACE to be able to have multiple internships within their 4 years at the university. And then there's always OPT, which is optional practical training, which is where students want to be after they graduate to have a job. Now, students that are in disciplines like the arts or in humanities and so forth, they can stay in the US for 1 year to work. And then for students that are, or in business even, and students that are in any type of STEM related program, and some of our arts and science programs and business do have a STEM component, but then that allows you to work in the US for 3 years. So those are kind of the differences. But again, many of our students do take advantage of the OPT, whether it's a 1 or a 3 year. And again, these are the schools that we have. Seidenberg is a School of Computer Science. Leuben is a School of Business. Dyson is a School of Arts and Science. But within all 3, you can see these are all STEM related programs. So students do have the opportunity to stay and work for 3 years. So as I mentioned before, we are a university of 2 campuses, New York City. So what's the reason to choose New York? It's the home base of everything. It allows students to be able to walk outside their dorm, their classroom, and have the world at their feet, minutes away from Wall Street, Grand Central Station, Silicon Alley, Madison Square Garden, which is where some of the professional teams do play. But also it's a place where large conferences and job fairs are held. So again, great opportunity to network. We do offer opportunities to live on campus. So you are not obligated to live on campus. You can live outside of campus, but we do have 4 accommodations. About 3/4 of our students do decide to live on campus. Pretty much this is renovated, was in 2019, so it's obviously under different times. But again, what we wanted to do is make sure the students have the opportunity to either congregate, sit with each other, discuss capstone projects, or be individual and just sit in the booth. This is the front of the Welcome Center. Again, open space, but behind that, you can see that's a conference room that can be divided in 3 parts. We also have networking events there as well. So Leuben School of Business, that's actually for postgraduates. It's a lounge area, but students outside also can utilize it for undergraduate. And again, you can see pictures right there. And then safety and security. I know this is one of the big topics along with scholarships. So New York City does offer some extra perks, the New York City campus. I mean, we do have security 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If something were to occur on campus, God forbid, but security would send out a text message, a phone call, and an email within seconds of each other. The other thing is, right across from the New York City campus is City Hall. City Hall is where the mayor of New York City is conducting business. It's the highest elected official in New York City. So with that does come additional security, not part of Pace University, but law enforcement. And then adjacent to us, so if you think about a triangle, then you have one police plaza. So that's the New York headquarters for the police department. So again, added security. So when you think about students walking the streets, there's always some type of law enforcement or security personnel. So the other campus that we have is Westchester, and Westchester is only 40 minutes away, but it gives students a whole different option. I think students have the idea of more of the suburban atmosphere, open space, greenery, being able to sit on grass and enjoy the nice weather. That's what the Westchester campus does offer. Some reasons to choose it: it's newer, so it does offer students more state-of-the-art opportunities. Still plenty of opportunities for internships being in that area. You have two of the top international companies just minutes away, PepsiCo, the soda beverage company, and MasterCard International, the credit card company, are within reach of the campus. And students still have the opportunity to take advantage of the New York City campus. Again, 40 minutes away, we have shuttle vans, as well as the train station that's not too far. So you can have an internship down in the city. You can partake in events that are in the city. You can even take a class in New York City. So you're not being hindered being in Westchester and not being able to partake in anything that's New York City. Again, it's one university, two campuses. Living on campus, we offer accommodation there as well. There's 5 similar numbers. About 75% of our first-year students do live on campus. Different type of pictures, open space, that's the student center behind. And that's where the cafeteria is located, all clubs, game room, bookstore, different conference rooms as well. It's very large, multi-levels. That's the train station right there. So again, that's the Metro North. 40 minutes away gets you right into Grand Central Station. Now you're in New York City. So for scholarships, one of the big things is that Pace University is test optional. And that's something that Kaya did mention, that many schools have been going that route. We've been test optional for quite some time. That's actually before pre-pandemic. So with test optional, you're not required to take the SAT or the ACT for admission into the university, nor do you require it to qualify for a scholarship. Now, with PACE, we offer merit-based scholarships. Again, it's going to be based on your performance in your school, your academics. The better grades that you have, the more opportunity that you have for scholarships. And it also depends on the campus, New York City and Pleasantville. I will give you the inside track. Pleasantville does offer students more opportunity for scholarships. So if it's something that you really need, I would recommend to apply for the Pleasantville campus. But again, we offer scholarships on both. Ranges anywhere between $12,000 to $29,000 US dollars for academics. We do not offer need-based, so again, it's just merit-based. And then for any students that then are here that are interested in master's degrees or do come to PACE on the undergraduate and want to continue their studies as a master's, we do offer students also opportunities for scholarships on the graduate level as well. Checklist is very simple. Application fee, transcripts, letters of recommendation, and then the one thing we will require are English proficiency. So it could be either TOEFL, IELTS, Pearson, and the Duolingo exam test, which we started accepting last year immediately to help students be able to get their English proficiencies right away. That's our information to contact us. And that is the end of my presentation. I wanted to make sure that I leave some time to be able to answer any questions, both myself and Kaya that's here. So hopefully I was able to answer some things. But again, maybe just to kind of kick off, I know that one of the topics that Kaya had mentioned before was in regards to modalities, which is the method of how the university will teach. I know for PACE, last year, when everything was occurring, we decided to offer students the opportunity to do classes on campus, online, whether it's HyFlex or whatnot. This year, we are offering students the opportunity to be on campus. Kaya, yes, you should turn on your camera. Please join us. There you go. So we are offering students the ability to take courses on campus, and we are still working with students to be able to offer them classes online if needed, because their embassy or consulates were not open, or for whatever reason. So we are trying to work through all that. Whew.
Thank you so much, Rob. That was great presentation. Kaya as well, thank you so much for covering the Why to Study in USA part for us. I personally loved your program that inspired, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds very cool. I wish I was a student at PACE now.
I'll waive the application fee for you, no problem.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I hope our audience enjoyed the presentation and all the advices that you got, but let's see if we have some questions. So now Rob and Kaya will be very happy to answer them, so please use the chat box to send them over. And here I have Martin from Argentina, who would like to know the following. What are the advantages for an IB student applying to PACE? Martin has not yet decided if he will take the full IB diploma, but what would be the advantage if he does so? Rob, maybe you can.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, for students that are in the IB, and if they're doing their higher levels, then those credits can be transferable. So I think that, to me, it's one of the biggest reasons, as well as if they're doing, let's say, English higher level, then they will not have to take the English proficiency exam like a TOEFL or so forth. So those are advantages, as well as, for me, the IB is a very competitive diploma, so it does also give students a bit more weight in terms of their application. So if any student has the opportunity to pursue an IB, I recommend it, because there's, the advantages are very, very big.
So I hope Martin got inspired to get his IB diploma. So just to clarify, so do you require any language exams like TOEFL from IB students, or once they're IB students, no extra language test needed?
If they have the higher level English and they have a score of a 4, then they will not have to take the TOEFL or Duolingo or anything to that effect. If they do not have it, then if they still have the standard level, the SL, it might be waived, but there won't be credits transferring it. So either way, it's good. For students that are not in the IB program, then they, if they have AP, then that's also could be accepted. But anyone outside of that would have to take the English proficiency.
Okay, perfect. And this leads us to the minimum IB points. So what would be that for PACE?
25.
25. Okay, so I saw some students ask that, so I hope we answered to many of them at once. Here we have a question from Mohammed. Is the Syrian high school certificate accepted? Maybe Kaya can tell us a little bit more about that.
So I think what you're going to need to do is to, in my experience, talk to the admissions advisors at the schools that you're applying to, because they'll need to look at the grades and the courses. So oftentimes what international students need to do is they'll have to officially turn in like your transcripts in Syrian, and then you'll need to get them translated into English. Generally, officially, some sort of like official seal that it's from a third-party translation company. So not that you and your friend who speak English are translating the scores. Obviously, everything around the world, it's a little bit different, the types of subjects and courses, but it should be accepted. And they're going to look at those grades. They might contact your school, or they might contact an Education USA advisor in the area if there isn't one for Syria, just to get some context on the education system. So I would reach out to those schools specifically, to the admissions advisors, and any of you can do that. That's what they're there for. I think Rob would back me on that, you should be asking admissions advisors questions, but don't ask them questions you can find on the website though. So don't ask them, is there a psychology degree, when you can go to admission or academics and you can see that there's a psychology degree. Yeah, I don't know, Rob, if you want to follow up on that.
Yeah, I think the Education USA Syria, I don't think they have the office there. I think they're based in DC, I think, with what's right. If my fuzzy memory, but still they could definitely help out. You hit the nail on the head. I would say should be notarized, third party, translated. Some schools require also an official evaluation from a third party service. With like some universities like PACE, we do not. As long as it's translated and notarized, the official in Arabic or the respected language and the English proficiency and the English equivalency, then we can make a decision on that.
Okay, thank you guys for covering this topic for Mohammed. I hope he's very happy with the answer. And we have another question from an IB student from Spain, from Andrea, and maybe Kaya can help us with this one. So the question is the following. I was wondering if by doing the IB in high school, I have to then take the SATs in order to be able to study in the USA.
So again, you're international baccalaureate, so that's different from just the SATs. You would still need to take SATs if the school, again, requires you to take SATs. So like Pace University is test optional, so you don't necessarily have to. What many schools do though, and this is like a caveat with test optional, is they might not require it for admissions, but they'll require it for merit-based scholarships. So double check those schools. But it's my understanding you will need to take the SAT. If your IB school though is in English, you won't have to take a TOEFL if it's, you're learning English, all your subjects, or any language proficiency exam. They'll contact the school to double check. But so for all of you, if the majority or your school is an English speaking school in wherever you live, you can generally get that English proficiency exam waived. They'll accept that. Rob, did you?
Most of our students who are taking IB are taking the English in the IB. So whether it's the SL or the HL, so most likely their English is going to be waived. But the SAT, it's really at the discretion of the university. And so it would have to be, for the student that has a short list of schools, they would have to do research in terms of what the admission criteria are. So does the school require a test? Yes or no? And like you said, they may not require it for admission, but they may require it to qualify for a merit-based scholarship. So those are the different levels. For PACE, we don't require it for either one. But the other thing is sometimes if students do submit an SAT that's a very strong score, then that also may get them more merit-based scholarship. So even though like for PACE, we don't require it, there are some students who submit an SAT score. It may be very competitive, a very high score, and with strong GPA in school, that might put them over to a next level, like honors and so forth, which then kicks up different scholarships. So it's almost, you have to be almost a physician or physics person to really understand the logic behind it. But usually most universities have that laid out on their admission pages.
Perfect. And then, Kaya, what about if students are doing APs in their country?
So this is a tricky one because is your AP the equivalent of a high school in the United States that has AP? And then not all schools in the United States even offer AP classes. So I would say you can turn those scores in, but that doesn't mean that you will get college credit because you would need to then take those tests. Are those tests even available where you are to get those college credits? So it's always very tricky because is it the equivalent? So if you put that it's AP and then it's really not considered AP in the United States, I don't want the school to think that you're trying to lie. That gets very tricky. And again, not all students in the United States have opportunities to even take AP classes in their school. So again, they're looked at and they're appreciated, but it's not a like, oh, you have to take AP classes. And I know some of you are probably thinking about trying to engage in some sort of AP class now that the SAT subject tests are no longer available. So again, if you have opportunity to do it, great. Send those scores in if you honestly think they're the same type of level, but if you don't have access, that's okay. A lot of students don't. Just be aware that you might not get college credit for them. You still have to take those AP tests. And there's just a lot of, we don't know if they're the same level, if that's making sense. I know that's not really a concrete answer that you're looking for. Often we don't have concrete answers for you guys because the system is so huge.
Oh, it is very useful, all the information you're providing for sure. Let's go to the next question now, because there have been many actually about the scholarships. So maybe we can get Rob's perspective on that. Do students first apply and share their academic record in order to apply for a scholarship? Because you mentioned also PACE, the merit-based scholarships, right?
Yes. So students would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go.
So students do not have to submit any additional paperwork to qualify for a scholarship. Once the application to the university is submitted, and we have all the documents, the transcripts, letters of recommendation, statement of purpose, when we're reviewing it, when we make an admission decision, it's going to be based on a number of different criteria. But we'll put in the GPA, and there's an automatic calculation. And then so if a student is admitted to the university, automatically they will receive an email to check their portal, and it'll indicate their scholarship. So there's no additional paperwork required to fill out for a scholarship.
Mm-hmm. I see. And Kaya, and one question for you as well. So there is a minimum amount of students that would, what do they need to bear in mind when they applying for a visa? How can they apply for the visa? What do they need to do first?
So it's going to be kind of done together with the school that you got into. So first off, you have to get into, you have to be accepted into schools. And then the school, once you get accepted and you decide that you want to go to XYZ university, you will request from them what's called an I-20 form. And then that form they will fill out for you. They'll send it to you. And then you will need to schedule an appointment with your US Embassy or your consulate. And then you're going to take that form with you and then give it to the person who you're interviewing with. And then it'll start this whole process. So again, and I know for a lot of you, your US embassies are closed or your consulates, they are trying to prioritize at this moment the student visas. So just be aware that it is taking time, but they are really trying to help all of you. It's just a slow process, but yes, so you will work in conjunction with the school that you decide to go to, because you will need to get stuff from them that you will then bring to your interview. But most importantly, it's the I-20 form.
Mm-hmm. And there is a minimum budget for, in order to be approved for a visa? Mm-hmm. What would be the one?
So students normally, for our process, and it's usually kind of industry standard. So a student, they must be admitted to the university, obviously. Then they need to supply financial documentation, bank statements, to basically show proof that they are able to pay for their education. They'll also list the scholarship that they received, so that's on the I-20 form. So once all that is said and done, then we will issue the I-20, and we're still following last year's guidance, but it allowed us to be able to send it electronically, because before that it used to have to be sent through like a DHL or a FedEx or something like that. So students receive it electronically, they would need to make their appointment at their consulate and so forth, and then go through the process that Kaya has mentioned in terms of having an interview with the visa officer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kaya, anything else to add, or?
I would just say, make sure you guys stay above the law. Don't do anything fishy, don't do anything that could make a a person who's interviewing you think you don't have good intentions for wanting to go to the United States. You know, you can't just stay there once you finish, right? You have to come back. So don't do anything that, you know, would deny you getting a visa. So be good students, be great members of your community, you know, things like that.
Wonderful advice.
Be the good people that I know you are.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's take a next question, which comes from Alex. Are the tuition fees the same for American citizens and foreign students? I'm an American citizen, but I now learn and live in Europe. So I wonder if I can get some kind of additional scholarship as an American citizen.
So it depends on the institution. If it's a state-run school, a public university, or private. For private universities, the tuition is the same. So we don't have an in-state, out-of-state, international fee or whatnot. Public universities do range. So let's say if someone is a resident of New York, the tuition is going to be significantly less as opposed to an out-of-state or an international. Still competitive, not something significantly higher, but there is more. For someone who is a citizen or permanent resident in the US, the scholarships may be the same, but then there's additional financial aid, which now can be could be based on need. So then the student will fill out what they call the FAFSA form, the free application for federal student aid, to see if they qualify for any federal aid, like what they call the Pell Grant, student loans. They also have, some states have state grants, but that would require the student to be a resident of the state. So realistically, it's maybe just more on the federal side, on top of whatever scholarships the university can give on the merit side.
Mm-hmm. Kaya, anything you would like to add on this?
No, I'd say Rob covered it. You have that unique advantage, or not even an advantage, but you have some different availability on grants and scholarships because you are a US resident. But yeah, I'd say nothing to add there.
All right, then let's go to Livinia's question. What a beautiful name. So the question goes like this. I heard about your combined degrees, Rob. Could you please provide more information about them? Some benefits?
So the beauty about a combined degree is, in the United States, let's say hypothetically, you went for undergraduate. Normally that's 4 years. And then you wish to pursue a postgraduate degree, so a master's degree. So it's 2 years. So it's very different. Like in the UK, it could be 3 years and 1 year, right? So it's altogether 4. You know, the US has 4 years and then 2 years. So with the combined degree, a student has the opportunity to pursue a master's degree while they still are in school for undergraduate, hence combined. So as opposed to being a 4+2, it'll be more like a 3+2. So instead of being 6 years, you can do it in 5. So students have the opportunity to get both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree at the same time, and be able to save a year's worth of time, and at the same way also in terms of tuition costs, because you're paying differently in terms of the cost of credit, because you're using it as undergraduate money. So there's a cost savings and there's a time savings as a combined degree.
Mm-hmm. All right. And now we have another question more specific on the journalism program. So is it easy for students from Georgia to find a job afterwards with this degree?
So, I mean, media studies, communications. I mean, I was a communications major as undergraduate myself, so focusing on broadcasting. And I'm not going to lie and say it's the easiest. It does involve significant internships and a lot of networking, but it doesn't really matter where the person is from. I think it's really the drive. And I think if the person does what they need to do in terms of their academics, really becoming a go-getter in terms of internships. For media studies, I would say realistically, you probably want to have at least 3 internships under your belt to kind of make your way in terms of the circles, and then maybe have the opportunity. But media today is much different than it was 15, 20 years ago. Now students can do things online, and they can blog, and they can do podcasts, and they can do a number of things where it's no longer the traditional media studies where it was just TV and radio. So I think there's plenty of opportunity, but again, that's one of those programs that you got to have a lot of passion and just do it. 3-4 internships.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much for answering this question for the prospective student from Georgia. Let's go to the next question from Lucille. I hope I pronounced the name just right. So is there a reason as to why the minimum IB points are lower compared to other American universities?
So for us, I know other universities, they require maybe 27 or 32 or 35. I mean, if you're talking a school like an Ivy League school, yes, it's going to be different. If you're looking at a school like a Stanford or MIT, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm not trying to say that PACE is anywhere close to that, but at the same time, what we do, and it's not, we realize that the IB diploma is a very competitive diploma. So when I look at someone that has a 24 or 25, that's, to me, has a lot of significance. So we try to look at students more, and this is a common term now, holistic and looking at the whole thing and whatnot. But for us, we know that someone that's going to the IB diploma, it's not an easy thing. So for a student to have even a grade to that point, it's not that we're accepting less or it's mediocre. It's that we're recognizing that it's a very challenging diploma. So we want to try to give you the opportunity to get into a university. I'll be honest, I do not see too many students that even are accepted into that threshold. I've seen most of our students are having in that 30, 31 range minimum in the IB. So it's a very, for us, we don't really see too many on that end. But for those that we do, they may have, like, say, a 25, but maybe they're in athletics or maybe they're doing community service. So we're looking at all that in terms of the whole picture. And maybe that's why the IB score was just maybe a bit lower.
Perfect. And well, while we're on application topic, let's have one more question and then we'll give Rob a break and talk with Kaya for a while. So the question is from Annie, and she's asking, Rob, can you please tell us about extracurricular activities?
So I think, for extracurricular activities, students sometimes really get too overwhelmed with it. Some schools would want to see so many things, and for me, I'm realistic. I'm looking at a student that's doing 3 or 4 years in high school. Some maybe are working part-time to help their family out. Some are doing community service. So maybe they do not have the opportunity to have too many extracurricular activities, to do sports, athletics, or the music and so forth. So I don't necessarily look down on someone if they don't have any extracurricular activities, because maybe on the application they list a number of other things. Perfectly fine. Now, if the student does have extracurricular activities, that's great as well. They have the opportunity to be in band and do other things. So I think either way, I think the message I'm just really trying to convey here, it's important, but at the same time, there may be other things on the application that's saying, okay, you didn't have the opportunity to have extracurriculars because you're doing a number of other things. So it's important, but it's not the end of the world if there aren't any. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Yes, I hope Annie is happy with the answer.
Can I add something to Rob's thing?
Sure, Kaya, yes.
For you guys who are trying to do all these extracurricular activities because you think you need to have everything in every aspect, don't do things because you think they're going to look good. Because if you get asked about something and it's clear that you have zero passion for that extracurricular activity, I would say, that's not the best thing either. If you don't love pets or animals, dogs, then don't volunteer at the dog shelter. Do the thing that you are passionate about, because that'll come through if you have to write about it, if you get asked about it. People, I think admissions advisors want to see genuine people and that they're excited about whatever it is that they're doing, so don't feel like you have to do something because you think it looks good. Just do what you enjoy.
Beautiful advice. Thank you, Kaya, for this one. And let's go to the next question. So we have future doctors here, as I see. So can you tell us a little bit more about the requirements on studying medicine in USA? And I know it's a bit difficult for the international students who want to study medicine, and they really need to be sure, about staying in the USA afterwards. So could you please talk a little bit about that?
After you obtain your undergraduate degree, so after 4 years of schooling at a minimum, because sometimes it takes others a little longer, you would then, if you were going to go to medical school, you would have to take a standardized test called the MCAT, and then you would use that to also apply to your medical schools. I will say it's hard enough for even US students to get into medical school. It's very expensive. They really don't have scholarships for medical school. I've maybe seen like 1 or 2, and they're like so small. So just, it's very difficult to get into. And I'm not saying don't do it, just be realistic. So you need your bachelor's degree, generally in some sort of science related field. You'll need the MCAT to get into. All the applications that go with, those medical schools that you're applying to. After 4 years of medical school, though, you're not like officially a doctor. You're a doctor, but you're like a doctor in training. So then you'll need to do 4 years of residency, where you are working under established doctors who are going to kind of watch what you're doing. You're learning how to be a doctor. You're taking all these tests constantly throughout those 4 years to make sure that you know your stuff, so that you can, take care of someone and know what you're doing. And then after those 4 years, then you're a doctor. Again, it could be even longer. I know doctor friends of mine who spent 12 years to officially become the super specialized doctor they wanted to become. So again, it's generally about 12 years before you can officially practice all by yourself, with no attention or, signing off from another doctor. So that's 12 years in the United States. And those 4 years of medical school, there's really no financial aid. So you'll need to come up with a few $100,000, through, most people pay it off in loans, so they'll take a loan out and then they'll pay that loan over time when they're making money as a resident. And that resident lifestyle is very difficult as well. So it's great. It's a great dream. So do it, pursue it. But it's not as easy as just going to medical school. You've got to do a lot of work.
It's quite a commitment indeed. All right, we heard the medical program is quite long. Let's talk about the typical duration of studies. So bachelor is 4 years. College is 2 years. And what about if student wants to pursue to go all the way to PhD in the USA? Because Edward from Costa Rica wants to study physics, and he asked this question.
Well, it kind of varies on the length of your program as well. So some PhD programs are longer, depending on the research, how many hours you can put in. So 4 years. Then, maybe you want to pursue your master's, then a PhD. Some PhDs are a couple of years, some are 4 years. It's very much what you want to do. Rob.
Well, I could give you perspective. So before I worked in international, I used to work for a graduate school, and I also working international, but I also work primarily recruiting just masters and PhD students. And some programs, usually the masters is like the first 2 years of a PhD program, right? So some programs, if you go for masters, you apply to the PhD, they would accept the 2 years that you already did. So it'll be a total 4 years. Now, the challenge is then you may want to then do like a postdoc, right? So then maybe work under someone else. So that's about another year. So realistically, from your undergraduate studies, that's 4 plus 4, 8. You're looking at maybe somewhere like around 9, 10 years. You may want to research under someone else. Physics, it's a very high demand since it's very STEM. So there's a lot of opportunity with it, but you're looking at some time.
I think it's important to figure out, why do you think you need this doctorate degree? I think a lot of students feel like they just have to get something. So really take a look at why you think you need it. Like, what work are you trying to do? If you don't like publishing a lot of things and doing a lot of research, maybe getting that doctorate degree is not your thing. Like, I have a master's degree and people were like, oh, are you going to get a doctorate degree? And I said, no, I have no desire to do research and write papers and be published. Like, that's not for me. So no, like, absolutely not. So really figure out why you want to take it. I think, like, if you just want to get a PhD, that might not be the best reason to do all this extensive studying.
I think something like physics, though, is one of those, if
for
you
physics,
want a scientist or an academic, I think when you want to be, a physicist, you're going all the way. If it's something in business, you don't necessarily need like a doctorate in business. You can get away with even a 4-year degree, maybe going into 2 years as well. So it really depends. Know the career path. I guess that's a better.
Yeah.
And then you can go from there.
Mm-hmm. And if we talk about more creative careers like architecture, for example, I see this question just came in the chat. So how long would it take for the architecture? Is it as difficult as medicine, or?
You can go to architecture school, but again, you can just kind of study in architecture. So most students I know did like 4 years, and then maybe they like also specialized and concentrated, or did an additional 2 years. So it's like 6 years. I don't know of any, it's not super long. It's not as long as everybody else.
Yeah, it would probably be we don't have architecture, so that's the one. Some students study maybe fine arts, and then they go to architecture school. Maybe they studied interior design, and then they go to architecture school. So, but those are programs you have to have serious math aptitude, right? It's the same as kind of like hand in hand with engineering. So, I love architecture, but I wouldn't be able to. I can't even draw triangles. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's see, and maybe let it be our last question, since we are already 1 hour and 6 minutes here all together. So we have a question coming from Julia, and it's a bit broad question. So let's see. I was wondering whether you could describe the college experience overall. So maybe let's ask Rob and Kaya to tell us about their favorite part of studying in US. Like, for example, you mentioned, like Kaya mentioned, all the different non-academic aspects that would shape your choice. So what made you personally choose university at the first place?
I think it depends. It's going to vary differently based on the type of student you are. Some students are partiers, some are more academic, So I will say, for all of you, you're going to be able to find what it is that you're into. So, there's a university in my hometown. They have a Quidditch team, and the students get together and they play Quidditch on the lawn. And I remember I was running and I thought that was the coolest thing ever, because I was like, wow, they're actually playing Quidditch. But if that's not your thing and you want to, have a chess club, or you're really into basketball, there are thousands of options usually on campus. So I think whatever it is that you want to do and the group that you want to find, you'll be able to do it. And if it's not on campus, you have the ability to create that club. So you can create that club, get permission, from if you need to get permission, and start your own club. It's just so different. There's Greek life, so if sororities and fraternities are your thing, that's great. There's going to be sports things, wherever you are, try to take advantage. I would say if there's a great football team, even if there's a bad football team, so American football, go to a baseball game if you can, a basketball game, do all the things to figure out if you like them. And if you decide that you don't like them, okay, that's fine. But do everything that you can so that you know for sure that you didn't like them. I think I loved kind of just hanging out in the student unions, hanging out on campus. You'd see your friends, and, you'd meet off campus or study all night at like a 24-hour diner. Maybe not the smartest way to study, but, it's part of college life, I guess. I don't know. Rob, that's such a...
What about you?
excuse me, I think for university, it just gives students the opportunity to just reinvent themselves, right? I mean, I'll give you my example. For high school, went to an all boys school, right? And then you go to university and it becomes like, you're like in fantasy land. You're meeting so many people, and you're meeting people from all over the United States and from still all over the world. So it just gives you become a whole different person. It opens so many different doors. The friends that you make in university are going to be friends that are going to be with you for most of your lives. And especially if you're studying abroad, I mean, now you have people that you're going to meet from everywhere. So if you ever travel later on, you can go to California because you met someone that was attending PACE that's in California and visit them, or someone from Spain and you're really from Russia and so forth. So it becomes a whole different thing. And, while you're there, you become independent. You start learning how to work on your own. You have to learn how to kind of become an adult. And I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity in that stage of your life to really be there where you don't really have to worry about being outside of university and bills and this and family and all this other stuff. But you're in university, that's really where you're living your best life. And for 4 years, I mean, you have to take advantage of it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much, Kaya, for all the precious advice today. Really, it was amazing, amazing webinar. And I see in the chat we have thank you from the audience as well. You guys were amazing. All the questions we received. We're so happy to see you're excited about the US. So unfortunately, this is time to say goodbye and wish you and our presenters a lovely weekend ahead. We will share the recording of this webinar with you, so you will also receive the contact details of Kaya and Rob. So please make sure to get in touch, ask questions if you didn't hear an answer for some concrete, doubt you have. Thank you once again. I will play a video of Education USA once again for a goodbye. And with this, wish you a wonderful rest of the day and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having us. Nice meeting you both. Thank you so much.